Welcome to Young at Harp. This is episode number 197, Debunking Fake. You heard it right. We're going to debunk fake today and explore together, and hopefully with you. If you're joining us live, you can join in here on the sidebar with your comment. How is it that this notion of fake and our being a fake harpist, a fake person, a fake this or that, keeps us from having the confidence to be who we really are and to play the music that's ours to play? So I'm Kathleen Wiley, a Jungian Psychoanalyst in North Carolina, and I'm here with Deborah Henson-Conant, who is a composer, a performer, an educator, a mentor. We both play the harp, and that is why we call this Jung at Harp, and that's Jung, in case that sounds like union. It's Jung.
Yeah, and it sounds like young at heart. It is, but it's Jung at harp.
Yes, we are young at heart also.
Right.
And yeah. So anyway, we come together almost weekly to explore a question. We don't start with answers, we start with a question. And we trust the process and the art of conversation and being present to one another to have some possible answers that might emerge that become guiding principles for us and hopefully for you during the week. So DHC. Fake.
Yeah, I'm on the side. I'm on the side of fake because I created something called a fake book. And a fake book is a way of playing music that lets you into the process much more directly, at least as far as I'm concerned, than sheet music. And so I've been talking about it, and I have a workshop tomorrow called Fake It, and it all goes back to my first piano lesson when I wanted to learn how to play. I was already playing the piano a lot, but I was like, well, why don't I learn how to do what this thing that I'm doing? And so I got sent off to a piano lesson to the teacher up the hill. And I think I've told you this many times. This is apocryphal. I go in and she gives me this sheet music and with a picture of a rooster on it. And it's just this, it deadens every experience of music. You know, it takes this amazing thing that I've been playing with my whole life, and it's just like, here's this thing, you know, and it's like roadkill music. And I look at it and I'm like, didn't anybody else ever play this? And she's like, yes, people played it. And I'm like, well, didn't they do a good job? And she's like, yes, they did a great job. And I'm just like, well, why do you need me to do this? Like, I don't want to do this. And so she sent me home. And I think I even told this story to you, maybe even last week, because it's been very much on my mind. I don't know if I told you what happened next, because I don't know if I had connected up these two events. But what happened next is I went home with just utter frustration and said to my mother, can you just tell me how it works? No, stop with all this, do this and do this and do this and do this right and just tell me, how does it work? And so she told me what I realize now was pretty much everything she knew about music theory. But she said, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to play April Love by Pat Boone and I want to sing, you know, and whatever. And so she wrote the music out and she said, just ignore everything else on the page. You see this letter here, you know how to sing it? So you know the words, she's got the words here, and there's this letter here. That letter tells you everything. It tells you how to build the chord that gives you the harmony so you can sing the thing. And here's how you build it. And she, on the piano, she was just like, here's a C, and then you skip one, and then you do the next one, and then you skip one, and you do the next one. And there, it's called the 1 and the 3 and the 5. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just play the 1, the 3, and the 5. And if it says 7 there, then you go up and you play the 7. You can put them in any order, but that's it. That's how it works. So for me at that point, I had the operating principle. Now, you know, since then, you know, that one thing, as you keep doing it, becomes this, it becomes, I mean, you can add rhythm, you could add all these different things to it, but the operating principle was there. And at that point, I was like, great, I've got it. And what she didn't say this, because I don't think she knew this, but she was teaching me to fake music. And this comes from jazz musicians who just, you know, all played together, and they were fake. They got the melody. If you got the melody, you got the melody, you got the chords. You can play together when you know your role. You can play in a group and everybody can be playing the same thing because nobody's playing something specific. They're listening to each other and they're playing together. Okay, so it's called a fake book, and it's called Faking It. And we were talking about this, and I was like, hey, let's call this session, what is fake, or, embracing fake or something. And he's like, no, let's call it Debunking Fake. We were also talking about confidence and how I'm really on a search to experience more confidence. And so I was saying to you, if only I could find out how to fake more things in my life, because that's where I get confidence. When I'm trying to do it right and how it is on the page or how other people do it, I am constantly in a state of, I don't know what I'm doing. But if I can get to the operating principles and then make it up myself, then I feel safe.
But I think you just told us what's fake. What's fake is the idea that there's a perfect way to do it, and the perfect way to do it is what's written on the page. That's what's fake, because what your mother gave you was the gift of music. It was real music.
I think you're right. And I think one of the reasons I like to say fake, and then one of the reasons is to call it out before someone else calls it out.
It's like shooting yourself in the foot before someone else does it.
Well, I would say it's calling yourself a slut before somebody else does it.
I mean, the paradox is that if we want to be confident in who we are, if we are always going around talking about faking it, we're never going to feel confident because we are still stuck in that false paradigm.
I don't know. I feel pretty good when I'm faking. It's really interesting. I mean, what's interesting is, certainly when I first started playing the harp, I started to do this all on the piano, and I just had a couple of harp lessons as a kid, and then I started playing the harp when I was in my early 20s. And it's interesting that I said this thing about slut, because when I started playing the harp, I was like, you will not play like that on the harp. No. This is a real instrument, and you will be a real musician. Do not let that faking it touch your fingers on this instrument. So I did have that idea, but I hit a moment of desperation because I did start as an adult. I did need to make money to pay for that harp. I did have this skill. And when I was put in a restaurant and to make a living, sit here and play for 4 hours, and I could only play 4 pieces correctly, that was not going to work for a 3-hour gig or a 4-hour gig. This moment where it was like, are you going to go back and are you going to go back to this slutty thing that you can do on the harp, or are you going to stay prim and proper? And I just caved, and I started improvising, and it was very hard to get over that thing of and I would not sing with the harp because that seemed also very lowbrow. So I was basically refusing everything that I am and everything that was easy for me. And I find that members of the Academy, I just told them the other day, I said, I want you to make an inventory of everything you can do easily. And now start doing that more as you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, my heart was hurting at those ugly negative things you were saying to yourself. And they call it the imposter syndrome. I mean, it happens we see it in professional arenas. Also, this idea that somehow what we are and what we do isn't enough, and it's somehow fake, meaning illegitimate. And it keeps us from confidence, from being able to be with ourselves and with our heart. I had John and I had a gig Saturday night, which I'm very happy to report went really well, and it was just so satisfying. But I did a lot of work in the couple of weeks that preceded it of getting over any idea that I wasn't a legitimate harpist. And, one of the things I told myself, number one, it's a harp, so how bad can it sound? And number two, I thought, I'm probably going to be the only person there who plays the harp. And sure enough, I was. I was the only person there who played the harp. And afterwards, people were telling me how beautiful it was and what a fantastic harp player I was, which a part of me that feels fake can quickly dismiss. So I'm checking that. Okay. So this struggle, I'm tracking my own struggle with that. And then she said to me, and you look just like I think a harpist should look. I had worn this great Chico's kind of jacket cover that was part sheer, part velvet, black and red, very colorful with fringe. And anyway, it was a perfect kind of harpist outfit or presenter or teacher outfit. But she's like, you look just like the harpist. I think of a harpist looking anyway. But I think I'm sharing that because this idea of being fake really is where we do dismiss and disconnect from ourselves. We devalue and disown who we are, what we do, what our own experience is. And then we think if I go to the right book, the right piece of paper, the right coach, somebody will tell me how I'm supposed to be. And, people come into analysis after decades of living that way because before they die, they want to get connected to who they are.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Two things are going in my head. One is Pinocchio is coming into your being an Alisand, and it's like, I just don't feel real. I just don't feel real. Mm-hmm. But I mean, and I do think a lot about Pinocchio because I'm like, Pinocchio is a talking piece of wood. Like, how amazing is that? But he's like, no, I want to be real like everybody else. And I'm like, no, this is great. Anyway, not Pinocchio, but before Pinocchio came into my head, I was wanted to go back to that moment when you were saying that people were saying how beautiful it was, and and you said you were. What was the mechanism? If you could take me into your head, and I could see what was happening, what was that mechanism? What if a word came in? What was happening? Sort of physically and in your head as you managed these compliments.
So what I can tell you that I know is that because of my early childhood experience of my parents being poor, displaced tobacco farmers, and our family for the first 9 years of my life not having an indoor bathroom, and the disparity between how we were living at home, how our uncle up the driveway was living, how when I went to public school, there were indoor bathrooms, set up in me a sense of not being good enough, not being valuable, and feeling shame. And so I think part of what I learned to do was dismiss any good out of a fear that someone else would come along and dismiss it and shame me. So it's like if I shame myself first, it's kind of like you said, I call it fake before someone else does. And it's a very primitive defense mechanism, meaning unconscious defense mechanism that operates in our psyches from birth, if you believe the psychoanalyst, where we will dismiss the good before someone else does, because then we feel as if somehow then we're in control of it.
Yeah.
Where it gives us a sense of power. The problem is, as we continue doing that as adults, it is like we're constantly shooting ourselves in the foot, because it's a turning on ourselves, and it is a perversion of energy. And instead of energy that's to flow outward into our interface between who we are and the outer world, it turns back in on us in a convoluted way. So that's what I know about that mechanism in myself. And so fortunately, after decades of analysis, as it was happening in the moment, I could catch it and breathe and say, okay, Kathleen, they have no reason to lie to you. Why would the host be saying you're a fantastic harp player if he didn't really mean it? He has no, why would these people be saying to me, that was beautiful? And,
I'm curious. I'm so interested, of course, in this outhouse thing, because I think that we all must have something. I was thinking, what was it for me? But I'm curious. I just realized that one of the things that happens, and it's something that I try to get members of the academy to stop doing in their language, is the language of how people are telling you, I was moved by this. Instead of saying, I was moved by this, they're saying that you are so good. It was so good. So they're giving this language, and that could be denied. Someone else could come up and say, well, it wasn't really that good. Versus one of the things that we do in the academy is what was the gift that you got out of this? What opened up for you? And nobody can deny that. That is true. And what did you, anyway, so we're just looking in that way. How did it move you? So that's one interesting thing. And then the other interesting thing is, I mean, Citizen Kane, of course, the thing was Rosebud, was the sled, and I don't remember exactly what it meant, but it was some issue, something gets stuck. So I was interested, as you were saying, about the outhouse, and thinking, what does that feel like, and what does it feel like at school, and what is that? What's the mechanism of that? And trying to think about what was that for me, and I think I'm wondering, was it shoes? What was thing that felt like that Achilles heel, that if someone talked about that, forget it. It could have been my hair, my shoes, my body, but so what's the mechanism of, so when you knew that, I mean, I asked you about this, you immediately went to the outhouse, the thing, so you were connected with it, you've done a lot of work. What was happening? Somebody says, Kathleen, that was so beautiful. Like, step by step, what happens in your brain when that happens?
It's not a brain thing. Okay. This is not a thought process. It's not a linear, rational process.
So what happens to get from?
It's, to use Jung's term, it's an unconscious complex, a complex being a feedback loop that has a core affect, in this case, the affect of shame, not being good enough, that in the moment, something in the present has a tinge, you touch on a tinge of the affect in that pattern, then all of that energy that's collected around that affect comes surging in to interrupt your ability to be in the present moment. And it happens like that, and it has nothing, you can't think your way out of it. There's no thinking your way out of it. The only way that it ever gets transformed is getting into conscious relationship with your own unconscious contents.
This is, I love this, and I want to hear you talk more about it, and I want to make sure that people understand that one of the things about this, the way we set this up, is that you can actually take part in this conversation. Depending on where you're watching this, we're watching from all kinds of different streams. I think we're on LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube, and we're on Facebook. And if you make a comment, depending on where you are, it will show up in our feed, and that can come into our conversation as well. So as long as you're watching this live. So we just invite you to do that. And normally we do that right at the beginning. Kathleen, let's talk about this, because this is debunking. I don't even know what bunking means. Debunking fake. I hear what you're talking about right now is the actual process by which whatever it is, the thing you're talking about, by which in a specific moment and instant of our lives, we can debunk that in ourselves.
Yes. And again, it's not that our ego consciousness can debunk it, but our ego consciousness can get into conscious relationship with what is behind the shadow, to use a very popular word, and that is in being in relationship to our shadow, that we then can begin to have some influence. We begin then to be dance partners. And so it really has to do with understanding the rightful place of our ego consciousness and our rational processes. which is to be in service of connecting with the larger self we are. I want to take this to music for a minute, because when I remember, and when I remember that the songs that I am playing, that what I'm playing, and I had, I had my tunes list with, with tunes I was going to play throughout the night. I didn't necessarily have a specific order because this was a relaxed setting. But I had it there to prompt me. And what was most important to me before I started playing a song is that as I began to move towards playing it, that I let myself drop into my felt experience of that tune and what it meant to me. So that as I played it, that became my focus, not making sure I got all the right notes and right chords. Although I think I did a pretty decent job on that, to be quite honest, maybe probably better than I give myself credit for. But it was by no means perfect if someone was going to sit around and score me on right note, wrong note. But if someone was sitting around to have a felt experience of my heart to their heart, then I think that happened. I believe that happened. So I think there's a place where in the moment that those internal complexes come up, what we have to do is come back to the felt sense of who we are now and this moment in time and this reality. Because, for instance, who you are now when you sit at your heart is so much more, and yet all you've ever been, it's always been there, than you felt you were at that moment in the restaurant when you had your first gig with knowing only 4 songs. And so to stay identified with and in the felt sense of who you are now, this is what gives us confidence ultimately, because we reconnect to all of our inner resources and capacities.
I'm so fascinated by this, and I'm going, as you're speaking, I'm going back to the moment of like maybe when I was 4 or 5 and feeling what it felt like to play a story on the piano at that point. And it felt completely whole and complete. It was fluent, but I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about the experience that I tell stories with music. I love stories with music. This is what I do. This is a thing to do. And it was a toy just like any other toy. And now I see that I have more technical facility, and I also see that there were many awkward times in between that, times when I threw myself on the floor with despair, saying, why do I always have to try twice as hard to be half as good as everybody else? So I know that there's that, and I keep going back to that moment in Avatar where the guy connects his hair to his horse in order to be in connection. And it happens so quickly. And that entrainment, I don't know if that's the right word, but that entrainment with music and with a new instrument, it is not so quick, but it is the same entrainment, but it takes a long time. And I just think about how can it be faster by removing what are the barriers? Like you said, the incoming. There's like incoming, get the shame out. There's all this interference to the actual doing of the thing. And I have it that it's that interference that lets us not get fluent and connected. And I mean, like, let's just talk about social media. Like, I'm still seriously struggling here. Social media is an incredible opportunity to just show up, say your truth, whatever. I had a friend, one of the things I do that's fun for me is somebody gives me something to read and I'll just sit there and read it and sing it. It just becomes a song. I love doing it. A friend was going into surgery and another friend said, hey, my friend wrote a poem for herself. Could you just sing it to her?
Oh.
Sent me the words, and I did it. I recorded it like 4 times on my phone, and then I was trying to upload it, get it to her, and I ended up accidentally uploading it to my YouTube Shorts, and you can just look and you can just see, wow, this got a lot of interaction. It was just an authentic thing for another person. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't trying to be good. I was giving something to someone else. And I was able to then just like let people in the door to see that. And as I'm saying this aloud to you, I'm like, oh, that's the formula for me. It does not work for me to get on and say, oh, hello, everybody. This is what I have to say to you and whatever. I mean, maybe 1 out of 1,000,000 times I can do that. So that seems to dismantle the mechanism for me, this awkwardness and self-consciousness. Oh, that's just like,
Yeah, and we dismiss the power of authenticity.
I hear those words and it's like, okay, but how do you get? What is each person's connection? Like you just said, okay, I had this set list of the tunes. All right. So I had it in front of me. In the beginning of each tune, I sunk into what was meaningful. I'm making up words, what was meaningful to me about the felt sense of this. And I mean, this is something you teach, the felt sense, like that's what you're teaching. And with my friend, I was so moved by the words, that simple, beautiful words that she said for herself, I am safe, I am whole, I am, and to get to say those words, those human words that might never come out of my mouth because I've spent a lifetime writing songs. So I don't know how to say this, but there was just something so beautiful and simple and about being able to say those words.
You felt the human experience in her words. You felt it for her. You felt it for you. You felt it for all. This is for all of humanity, for all sentient beings. That authentic human experience is what connected with people.
Right. And if I were to do it again, having, I would be like, oh, now am I doing like so I would get
involved and ruin it.
It would try.
Yeah.
Because then I would be in the fake zone, in the fake zone, not in the beautiful fake zone where I'm owning, hello, I'm a fake and this is what I am. Hello, this is my authentic self. And so I'm thinking about, for everyone, what is the mechanism for you? I mean, for me, I'm seeing that part of the mechanism is speaking for someone else is somehow unlocks. And this all happened because I meet with a group of entrepreneurs weekly, and at the end, they started writing something, like each wrote a poem for themselves, and I just started singing it. And now every week that's part of the thing. And then I'm like, what style do you want? And last week it was like, hey, do it in rhythm and blues. And I was like, okay. And so it's just become this joyful thing each week. And it's a relief to step into that authenticity. So it's not like debunking it. It's like sliding underneath it into connection.
I think, to answer the question, I think each of us have to find what it is for us that the mechanism is. I mean, some common things that I think that are integral for all of us in getting there. It's number one, we have to be in our body and in touch with what has heart and meaning for us. What has heart and meaning for you is the sharing and speaking for another. So we have to know that. And so being in our body, knowing what has heart and meaning for us, knowing our own felt sense in relationship to whether it's the song we're sharing or the words we're speaking to someone we're in relationship with. And it all comes back again, we have to be inside of ourselves and know what's going on in us. If we're going to be authentic, then we have to start from where we are and who we are. We can't start with some idea that comes in from out here of who we're supposed to be. I do think sometimes we can take in ideas from out here and start out, let's just say, with a fake book, And that there is something about that that paradoxically can help us then relax into the authentic felt sense connection, in this case with the fake book, to the tune we're playing. So it's not to say that there are not things that come in from out here that may not sometimes actually be kind of catalyst or tools for dropping in, but ultimately it is about inhabiting and living from within one's deeper nature, and whatever it takes to help us shift into that. When someone asks you to sing a song, their poem on their behalf, you automatically go there. That's important information to know about yourself.
Yeah, I just realized that. I realize that's probably one reason why I'm always writing within stories and within the voice of someone else. I would love to hear what you have to say about, so for me, and I think for others, the fake book, which is lead sheets, they lead people and whatever the names are, but it's just the melody line and then the indication of what the harmony is. Now, most people, I think, are addicted to when someone's written out the harmony and it's, perfect. And so, but that is a long road. Like when you learn the process by which you can turn a lead sheet in a fake book into a song, when you learn the process by which you can do it, suddenly you're unlocking a whole, you unlock every song. Like this fake book has 56 songs in it. You learn how to do it. Every song is unlocked, not one song. Now it's not going to sound like, you're not going to be able to be like, hello, I'm Beethoven or I'm Mozart or whatever. So what's the difference there in, okay, oh, wow, okay, here's one of the things I'm hearing as I ask this. When you unlock it at your technical level, because they're not tricks. It's just that, like, you can play a melody like whatever, like, you can do that, or you can add, something just really simple. I'm not thinking about the harmony, but I've just added a shape onto that. That's adding a whole bunch more harmony, and then I'm adding an idea that's adding drama. It doesn't necessarily make it harder. So what am I saying here? So the point is that it gives you access at your technical level to unlock all these songs, but something has to get dismantled in you. You have to stop having an opinion of what it's supposed to sound like. And I notice over and over and over again, people will find something that works and then they'll be like, yeah, but I have to do something more interesting. I have to change it every time. And I'm like, no, you don't. You're playing this song. You're playing for a person. It's about the connection with the person, not how close to being Beethoven you are.
Well, I think, there are several things that are mixed up in what you're saying. And one is we've got to get the idea that playing music has anything at all to do with technical ability. Because, as we know from various cultures with the harp, there are many different technical styles of playing harp. One style of harp doesn't work in another style of harp. But, so what's the right technique? Okay, so the idea that technique equates to music, I think we have to debunk that. And I think also the idea that music somehow depends on complexity. So I think we have to begin to tease these things apart, and at the same time recognize, of course, we need a good technique in order to play what we want to play, which may be what some people are saying when they want to change it up. That the more technique we have, the more options we have. Okay, right? But does that mean we're making more music? No, the music is the music.
Right. And if you do play what you're playing with relaxed technique, with basic technique, then your technique, like it's one of those things. It's like creativity, learning, healing. it will develop. It just, and maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But I mean, I keep, because I now go back to my running. Like if I keep running and I am relaxed and I build my breathing, the fundamentals, if I'm focused on the fundamentals, will my running expand?
Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, again, sometimes the reality is we don't know,
Right.
but we have to be willing to be in process and relationship with it.
Right. And then I noticed that if I when I find a problem, if I go to a coach, or either to solve that one problem or to just be open to, because I'm always working with coaches, that will open me up. But what I'm getting from this conversation is that it doesn't work if I go in thinking I'm wrong, the coach is right, and I therefore have to change everything I am. I need to go in saying there is something I am trying to do, and the coach needs to help me do that.
And a good coach will be able to identify your strengths and then help you build from those. So I think that, in my opinion, so I think, again, whether you have a coach, a therapist, an analyst, a mentor, a peer group, whatever, the key is are we being met where we are? Are we meeting ourselves where I am? And that meeting ourselves where we are makes all the difference in the world, whether it is that we're playing music or we're engaging in an interaction with someone, or we're moving forward with a creative project. But we have to start with where we are. And I just want to put a plug in here again for doing a regular body scan, because Annie Murphy Paul, and I've mentioned her book before, The Extended Mind, Thinking Beyond the Brain. She's a science writer who has pulled together decades of research that shows that thinking is more than a rational function. And she says regarding the body scan and being aware of the sensations and emotions that are happening in your body, and this is the statement from her book, she says, people who are more aware of their body sensations make better use of their non-conscious knowledge. And that the one tool that research shows is most effective in developing that capacity is the body scan, which is the first embodiment practice that we work with in my embodiment circle. So, so I want to put a plug in to going back to the fundamentals and the basic of where are you in your body, mind at this moment? Because that makes all the difference. Because if you're not where you are, you can't move anywhere. Right? It sounds so simple, and
what I'm hearing with what I wrote down on this
I love it.
chewing gum thing is, by doing the body scan, by being present, you're creating an environment to be thinking more clearly, to be present to your thoughts.
Yes.
And then what I got there is that what is the point of all this is to unlock the true of who you are. And I would say unlock the true through fake. Now, unlock the true, for me, unlock the true through faking it is what I would say I come away with here in terms of how I now will approach the fake book, and even teaching the fake book, that the whole point of it is to unlock the true.
Right.
And so each time you do it with truth, you are debunking the fakeness of this thing that happens to be called fake.
And unlocking the true means being with your present to yourself in your own embodied felt experience.
And the word that comes right out to me at that is access.
Yeah.
You have access. You have
access.
The Facebook gives you access to the music. Your body, your connection with your body gives you access to being true to who you are through that, and allowing what you can do to see it as beautiful.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back and listen to this and start applying that.
All right. This is a good note to end on for all of us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone who is here, who's listening, who writes to us afterwards, who writes when we're here. It's just having this conversation with you, Kathleen, is so wonderful. It's something I look forward to every week. And being able to do it with all of you makes it even more wonderful. So thank you. Will we be meeting again next week? That would
Yes, we'll see you next week.
Beautiful.
Before the holidays. Okay.
Thank you so much. And I'll see